This video is about the different types of tests we're going to be performing to determine whether the red substance found at the scene is blood or not. So, we've got this red stuff at the scene. It looks like blood. We think it's blood, but is it blood? Could be something else, so we always got to make sure that we check. If you've ever watched any of those crime shows, like crime scene investigation type shows, where they get out their Q-tip and they swipe the red stuff and then they put it in a tube and they shake it and they look at it and they go, yep, it's blood. This is what we're going to do in our first test. So our first test we're going to be doing is a type of presumptive test. And you do want to make sure you know the difference between presumptive tests and the next type of test we're going to talk about. So presumptive tests, these are quick, easy, relatively cheap tests that we can do that can eliminate some substances as candidates when we're trying to test and figure out what something is, or they could indicate the probable identity of a substance. And so for an example, the example that we're going to be doing in this one is the Kastle-Meyer test. Basically, we're going to swab that red stuff over there. We're going to add some chemicals to it. And if it turns bright pink, that tells us that, yep, it is probably blood. Doesn't tell us that it definitely is blood, but it tells us that it's likely going to be blood. Then if it is blood, or if our Kastle-Meyer test comes back positive, then to make sure that it's blood, we can do what is called a confirmatory test. Confirmatory tests are going to confirm the identity of a substance for us with a high degree of certainty. The reason we don't do these initially, though, and that we do presumptive tests first, is that confirmatory tests are more expensive and they're more time-consuming. So we don't want to waste a lot of time, energy, manpower, money, resources, etc. doing confirmatory tests if we could have done a quick, easier, cheaper test to figure out that something is not blood, right? If we do the presumptive Kastle-Meyer test and it comes back not blood, there's no point going on and doing the other test that we're going to likely do, and that would be blood typing. So blood typing can tell us a lot more about that blood. It can tell us, yes, this is definitely blood, and not only is it blood, but also what blood type it is. And so that could be really useful information for trying to match that blood to one of our persons of interest. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to spend all the time doing blood typing, spend all the money, all the resources, etc. if the Kastle-Meyer test comes back negative, right? So if we get a negative test for that, that eliminates it. We go, okay, it's definitely not blood. If we get a positive test, it probably is blood, and we can hopefully learn more about it using confirmatory tests. So make sure you know the difference between a presumptive test and a confirmatory test. When would be an appropriate time to do a presumptive test? When would be an appropriate time to do a confirmatory test?